Then we leap forward to the build to No Way Out, Raw's first brand exclusive pay-per-view. Raw answered a lot of questions after the Rumble, but it still had quite a few to answer as well. One of those questions happened to be, who would be the inaugural World Tag Team Champions? The new WWE GM would announce that there would be a tournament that would culminate at No Way Out. The winners of that tournament would be the World Tag Team Champions. The first matchup took place on the Raw after the Rumble as DX took on the pairing of The Brian Kendrick and Dolph Ziggler. Kendrick and Ziggler decided to team up after facing off in the third episode of Raw. It was Ziggler's debut, and he would pick up the win. DX needed to rebound after their recent losses. They dominated their opponents on this night, but the ego of Triple H would be their downfall. He refused to pin Kendrick and kept punishing him. He would hit 4 pedigrees on him. By the end of the match, Kendrick was able to get the hot tag to Ziggler, who would be able to get the win for the team. Dolph Ziggler and Brian Kendrick would move on to No Way Out. The next match in the tournament would be the Hardy Boys versus the team of Chris Jericho and The Big Show. See? I told you. After the Hardys had their momentum derailed at the Rumble, Jericho was able to pick up a win and also move on to No Way Out. Then we actually move on to ECW. It would be announced that the teams on ECW can choose to compete for the World Tag Titles on Raw or the WWE Tag Titles on SmackDown. Due to this, ECW's Crime Time would face off against the team of Kofi Kingston and Evan Bourne. Going into the Rumble, JTG would really start picking up steam, earning a shot at Cody Rhodes in the ECW title at the Rumble. He wouldn't be able to get the title on that night, and things would not get any better for Crime Time. The more experienced team didn't win, and Kofi and Evan would move on to No Way Out. After that, William Regal would team up with the man he defeated back before the Rumble, Mark Henry. Regal agreed to bring Henry into this group that he put together with SmackDown's MVP and ECW's Umaga, Better Than Utopia. That pairing is extremely weird to me, but MVP and Umaga would go on to win the WWE Tag Titles on SmackDown. It's also important to bring up that Mark Henry was scheduled to face Jesse back on Raw Episode 6. That was actually supposed to be Jesse's debut. That match would never happen as William Regal, who was absolutely furious at losing to Chris Jericho, would attack Jesse in the back. He would do so while muttering something about Jericho at times. Then on the following episode, the match would take place, but William Regal would accompany Mark Henry to the ring. That would, of course, lead to Jesse losing as well. All of that would lead into this new branch of Better Than Utopia facing off against Jesse and his longtime tag partner and ECW superstar, Festus. Regal and Henry will look really good and decimate Jesse in the match. Jesse would manage to find an opening and get the hot tag to Festus. Festus, who had recently made his ECW debut, found himself being interjected into a very personal rivalry between JBL and Tommy Dreamer. He would destroy both of those guys, and now we're here. Festus got that hot tag and would help his good buddy defeat Better Than Utopia and move on to No Way Out. That finally leads us to No Way Out. There would be 3 tag matches on this show. First up would be Jericho taking on ECW's new team of Air Boom. Kofi and Evan would try to replicate what they did in their match with Crime Time, but when it was all said and done, Jericho would get the win and move on to the final match later in the night. Then Brian Kendrick and Dolph Ziggler would take on the reunited Jesse and Festus. Jesse and Festus would actually make quick work of their opponents, potentially showing that Kendrick and Ziggler's win over DX might have been a fluke. After the quick win, Jericho would immediately make their way back out to the ring. World Tag Team titles on the line, Jericho versus Jesse and Festus. The storybook ending was not to be for Jesse and Festus, however. Jericho would become the first tag champions on Monday nights. No Way Out would actually be a phenomenal show for The Big Show, but you'll see why in just a minute. Moving back to the women for a minute though, after losing her title to her own sister, Nikki Bella demanded a match with the rookie Caitlin Rain. She wanted to face someone who she thought would be an easy opponent. Was Caitlin an easy opponent? That's for you to decide, but I do know that Nikki Bella did not get the win she wanted. She won the match, but it was closer than you might think. After Nikki's match with the rookie, Brie Bella, the new champion, wanted to do the same thing. And again, Brie didn't get the win she would have liked. She was able to win the match, but again, it was closer than you'd think. I might sound like a broken record right now, but again, we had someone on the Raw roster demand to face Caitlin Rain. This time it was Kelly Kelly. The one woman on Raw who hadn't faced her looked the best in the match, actually. Kelly actually got a very dominant victory. That would lead into an announcement of a championship scramble match for No Way Out. You may be wondering who the 5th participant was. To answer that, we have to travel to ECW. You see, the deal with ECW tag teams and the other brands also applies to ECW's women's superstars. Melina would defeat Maris on ECW and move on to the championship scramble. Then on the Go Home show, both Bellas would lose even more momentum going into Raw's first brand exclusive pay-per-view. Brie Bella would lose to Kelly and Nikki Bella lost to Gail Kim. Gail Kim and Kelly had all the momentum going into the pay-per-view. Which brings us back to No Way Out and that championship scramble match. Sadly, there's not much to talk about with this match. All 5 women would brutalize each other with weapons, but no one was able to get a fall, meaning Brie Bella retained her title on a technicality. No one was happy, except Brie, but deep down, I don't even think Brie wanted to retain her title that way. That finally leads us to the WWE Championship once again. Going into No Way Out, we all know that the WWE title match was going to be Elimination Chamber. The question that we needed answered was only who would be joining champion Randy Orton in the match. The first person to join the champ would be his own tag partner Edge. Then DX would take a break from teaming up and face each other. That would lead Shawn Michaels into joining the chamber match as well. On episode 7 of Raw, we would find the next 2 competitors. Rey Mysterio would finally gain momentum himself and defeat Jeff Hardy. Where it gets weird and hilarious, Santino Marella had been waiting on the sidelines, awaiting his chance to compete on Raw. He took matters into his own hands and demanded a match. Sadly for him, the Big Show was set to compete when he came out. The Big Show would get the win pretty easily. Then in the final episode before the Big Show, there was one spot to fill. Brian Kendrick and Dolph Ziggler would join everyone who had an opportunity in the weeks prior in a 6-man over-the-top battle royal. Of everyone involved, Santino actually looked pretty good. He didn't win, but he looked good. Jeff Hardy would win the match and get another shot at the WWE title. Which leads us right back into No Way Out and the Elimination Chamber. This night, as I said earlier, was very good for Jericho. Chris Jericho earned the right to not defend his title against William Regal. They would win 2 tag matches in the same night to become the first World Tag Champions. Big Show would also compete in the main event, and he looked really good in it too. Big Show wouldn't win the chamber, but it took the combined efforts of Rated RKO to get him out of there. In the end, it would be Edge who would end the Age of Orton not too long after it started. And after that, Raw would join back up with SmackDown and ECW as all 3 brands would start building to WrestleMania.